Ready?
Nice cue.
Good evening.
Good evening.
17 years. Seems like a long time. But I can remember a day 17 years ago, sitting on a piece of grass across the street from an abortion clinic, waiting for my then girlfriend to emerge free of the child that we had created. It's a day that I won't soon forget, and it's a day that I would like to forget. The impact on my relationships from that day forward were severe. They caused a lot of anxiety, anger towards women, because I had no choice in the matter. I didn't have a choice. But many years later, I have this beautiful family. So obviously I've overcome. In America in 2007, 1.2 million abortions were performed. 2007, 1.2 million. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to talk to you about 3 points that will help you help your kids make better choices than I made in avoiding abortion. You can do it through education, you can do it through communication, and you can do it through providing positive choices. In an article written by Heather Newton, a Juris Doctor, health education is important because it helps each generation of students learn to become physically, psychologically, and socially fit in order to be prepared to assume the tasks of adulthood. I think that's a great quote. Education is the key to everything. That's why we're all here. We're here to expand our world and understand the world around us. And why not do that with the sex with our kids? I think it's important. Sex can begin at school. It can teach life skills. It can teach what it is to be a teen parent. It can teach the kids what the social ramifications are of being a teen parent, what the community reaction will be. It'll talk about how they get pregnant, the physicality behind it, how the body works, how the body functions. Hormones, the feelings, all the craziness that goes along with that. I sincerely suggest that you enroll your kids in a sex education class. Some of you have some predetermined ideas about what a sex ed class is about, but this is an education that can protect them. Plus, they get to play with things like this, computerized baby dolls. These are neat little toys. I don't know if anybody's experienced that, but my stepdaughter brought one home and it cried and it made a mess and did all sorts of stuff and collected data on her about being a bad parent. What's funny is she's now a parent, so it all works out well. An article in the USA Today talked about education. Oh, excuse me, I jumped ahead of myself here. Sex education continues at home. Sex education continues at home by asking questions about what your kids are learning in school. Asking questions, getting involved in your kids' lives. Because if they don't get the education from you and from school, they're going to get it from somewhere else. And that leads me to the USA Today article. There was a study that was done by Today's Pediatrics that talked about kids that were exposed to sexual television. And it says, what they found is by age 16, children who watched a lot of sexually charged television were twice as likely to become pregnant or the father of an unwed child as those who did not watch that sexually charged television. And it was a ratio of 12% to 5%. That just drives home the point that education is important. It's important to teach your kids the right way to approach things and to make those positive choices. So that leads into communication. If you can communicate with your kids by create, relate, and provide your perspective, you're going to gain trust from your kids and you're going to get things back tenfold. When you create an open and honest relationship with your kids, they're going to be more willing to come to you with those questions and concerns that they got whenever they're standing in front of their kids, their peers in the classroom that are teasing them about, what they did last night with so-and-so. It's important to do that. And remember, when you relate to your kids, you're relating as you used to be a teenager. It wasn't so long ago that we were teenagers. we were going through those crazy feelings of mixed up craziness, and I got a crush on Gina, and she's, you know, I mean, that's just how it goes. Things happen like that. But as an adult, you can provide your perspective. You can remember what it was like as a teenager, and you can provide your perspective as an adult. You know what, I did some things that were kind of screwed up back then. I think I'll do them a little different if I could go back. But you can pass that on in the knowledge that you give your kids. So don't be afraid to ask your kids questions. Are your friends having sex? How does that make you feel? Does that make you feel pressure to have sex with someone? Is that something that you feel in pressure? If so, maybe you should do some role playing with them. Gives them some tools to make their experience with their peers a little easier, because they'll be able to go into that situation armed with some words. I'm not ready for that right now. That's something I don't want to do. That's not a choice I'm going to make for myself. And it helps. Do that role playing. That brings me into my third and final point. Positive choices. If you provide your kids with positive choices, you can tell them abstinence is okay. Sex is a beautiful thing between two beautiful people who love one another. And don't cheapen it. There's no reason to. It's 100% effective against STDs and pregnancy. So you don't have to have that kind of stress when you're trying to get into college. Protection is a must. In an essay written by Dr. Simone Flynn, she explains that the U.S. Supreme Court, the highest federal court in the nation, has ruled that minors do not need to get permission from their parents to seek contraception. I didn't know that, but it's a right. It's a civil right, the right to privacy. They have the same rights as an adult. So whether your kids get the information from you or they get it from their friends, they can go out and do whatever they want because it's protected federally. It's under the Constitution. So talk to your kids. Protection is a must. If they're going to have sex and they're deciding to make that leap, you want to talk to them about their choices. Planned Parenthood has a website that is, I think, fantastic. It's got pros and cons on all sides of it. It's not weighted one way or the other. They just lay it out there for you to make your decision. They're also there for counseling and everything else. And so talk to your kids about the effectiveness of the pill and the complications that can come with that. Talk to your kids about the use of condoms. They're not always effective. And most of the time, according to the FDA, 14% of the failure rate is because they were misused or they weren't used enough. So it's important that you talk to your kids about these things because they won't know. They'll hear from their friends, oh, it's not a big deal. An anecdote to this is my wife took a banana, gave it to each of the kids, and gave them a condom and made them put it on several times from the time they turned 9 years old up until recently. And I think it's going to help save their lives. It can also keep them out of a situation that I went through. I think it's important. Other positive choices, if they do happen to become parents, and that's an unplanned thing, there are other positive choices besides abortion. You've got adoption. In 1995, the CDC reported 6.1 million women were unable to have children. That's a whole lot of mothers out there that would love to have that child. And there's no reason to kill it. Parenting is an option. It's a tough option. Teens have a hard enough time growing up in this world. It's a fast-paced life. But the thing is if they've got strong family support, it is definitely a possibility. You can help them graduate, you can help them get through college just by strong family support. What this leads to is avoiding abortion altogether. I don't believe it's the right choice. Life is a blessing, ladies and gentlemen. Life is a blessing. So in conclusion, as my choices were limited with my then girlfriend and the story I told you at the beginning, had I made better decisions for myself, I could have avoided that situation altogether, which would have led to some better choices later on in life and also some better attitudes on my behalf. So helping your kids make the right choices in their young lives can help prevent those tragedies that can cause things that happen all through their adult life. So how do we do this as parents? How do we guide them through that crazy time when all the hormones are raging and they just think that girl's way too cute not to go try to kiss her? Well, I think using those education, communication, and helping your kids make those positive choices is what's going to do it. Thank you.
Nice job, David.
Thank you.
Yeah. Questions, comments for David?